Welcome. Another Pebble in the Pond video, continuation of Head-On series in Isaiah, chapter 9. In chapter 8, Israel is being hammered and beat down by God, although he's using armies and other nations to do it, and kings. And it concludes that they shall look unto the earth and behold nothing but trouble and darkness and dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. Chapter 9, verse 1 begins, Nevertheless, more prophecy coming down the pipe. The dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation. In other words, the darkness that's going to be upon her. Israel. Vexation is extremely troubled. When at first God lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Nephtali, and afterward did more grievously affect her by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan and Galilee of the nations. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. Shadow of death is really deep darkness. Verse 3, Thou hast multiplied the nation, and not increased the joy. They joyed before before God. Isaiah is laying it out of their scenario here, what they're doing. They're joying, but their joy is according to the joy in a harvest, and as men rejoice when they divide spoil, when they take in a city. For thou hast broken the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Wow. So they're going to have fire come upon them, and flood, as it says there, that he'll be afflicted by the way of the sea, water, storms, hurricanes, whatever. God controls it all. Verse 6. And then he jumps right in when he talks about there shall be burning with fire and fuel of fire. And we're going to find out later the fuel of the fire are the people, unfortunately. And then he jumps straight to prophecy. For unto us, verse 6, a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Now there's songs that have been made over this particular verse in Isaiah, especially at Christmas time. I've heard the song played. And it continues, this prophet goes on to verse 7, a continuation there, of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it, to establish it with judgment and justice from henceforth and forever. Wow, that's a long time. And that government will not fall. Are we that? Did we have that government? The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. The zeal, the burning desire, the fervent desire of the Lord of hosts will perform this. 8. The Lord sent a word unto Jacob, and he hath lighted upon Israel. And it hath lighted upon Israel, And all the people shall know, even Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, that say in the pride and stoutness of heart, the bricks are fallen down, but we will rebuild with hewn stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we will change them into strong cedars. Therefore the Lord shall set up the adversaries of Rezin against him, and join his enemies together, the Syrians before and the Philistines behind, and they shall devour Israel with an open mouth. And for all this, God's anger is not turned away from his people, right? But his hand is stretched out still with super harsh chastisement, death even, to most of them. Verse 13, for the people turneth not unto him that smiteth them, neither do they seek the Lord of hosts. Therefore the Lord will cut off from Israel head and tail, and branch and root in one day. And I think branch and root is maybe the analogy there. In other words, completely wipe it out. Then he tells you what the head and tail are. The ancient, that is the elders, and the honorable is the head. He is the head. And the prophet that teaches lies, he is the tail. For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. Therefore the Lord shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall he have no mercy on their fatherless and their widows, for every one is a hypocrite and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly, that is foolishness. For all this God's anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still, for wickedness burneth as the fire, and it shall devour the briars and the thorns, and shall kindle in the thickets of the forest. So we have the sea, the fire, the wars, the attacks by various kings and kingdoms upon Israel. And they shall mount up like the lifting up of smoke. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened. They've done made God mad, and there's nothing worse on the planet than that. And the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his brother. The people shall be as the fuel of the fire. And he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry. And he shall eat on the left hand, and they shall not be satisfied. They shall every man eat the flesh of his own arm. Manasseh and Ephraim and Manasseh, and they together shall be against Judah. For all this God's anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Wow. That's quite a judgment. I fear America has the same thing coming. Get in the Word, stay in the Word. Pray before you enter the Word that you may rightly divide it, and apply it to your life and your friends and family the best you can. And just please God with your life, and let him worry about all the particulars and the things that are coming forth in our day today.